a lot of fun. On today's episode, a way for me to talk about every single game that we got to some capacity, I'm just going to rank them. The most fun for different reasons, you know? Was it a cool outcome? Was it an individual performance that made it interesting? But I'm going to rank all of the 8 games, okay? Starting off with, I think, the most interesting game of them all. You know, sometimes, again, it's about a good game, good performances, big implications with game one. It is game one at the end of the day. But I think the most interesting one was the Orlando Magic winning game one, going into Detroit, the one-seeded Detroit Pistons team home, and beating them 112 to 101. I don't know, man. We did our previews on numbers on the board. And one thing I said in that preview is that though I'm taking the Detroit Pistons to win the series, and even after game one, I'm still going Pistons. They've earned that benefit of the doubt. Like I've said before, you don't accidentally win 60 games. It's a 60-win team. But I did believe that the Orlando Magic matched up well against them because, as we all have known, and we talked about time and time again, the Detroit Pistons' biggest flaw is that they don't have secondary creation outside of Cade Cunningham, and they just don't have shooting. And the Orlando Magic is similar in the sense that they don't have a ton of shooting, right? That has been their Achilles heel over the last couple seasons. But they have some creation on multiple occasions, like multiple different levels. Jalen Suggs is a self-creator and creator for others. Desmond Bane, and this is, again, varying degrees. Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero. They could, if they had a creative coach, get pretty creative on the offensive side of the ball. And again, you don't accidentally win 60 games, and the Pistons won 60. They just feel like in a 7-game series, if the coaching was right, if the personnel was right, they would be a team that you can scheme up against. Now, I'm not burying the Detroit Pistons stock. I still believe that the Pistons will come out of the series, but, I mean, game 2 going a certain way. I may have to flip my vote. But this was a really tough watch if you're a Detroit Pistons fan. Before we get into that side, I'm going to give the flowers to the team that won because this is a huge, huge win. Just a few days ago, I thought the Orlando Magic had no chance of making the postseason. They lost that game against the Boston Celtics last night of the NBA season. They go into the first game of the play-in. They lose that to the 76ers, and then they go into the second game, and I think everybody, the America's team, Charlotte Hornets, is playing that one. We all went to see Charlotte, and they wiped the floor with them. And the effort level on both sides of the floor stood out. And I was like, if they play this hard in the next round 2 against Detroit, then at least it'll be an interesting series. And it starts off as the most interesting game 1 outcome, at least in my personal opinion. Paolo Banchero, the last 2 games, the last play a game in this game 1, looks phenomenal. Just straight up. Looks just like the player that everybody fell in love with 2 years ago or last year when we were saying that one of the top 25 players under the age of 25. He looked great. Franz Wagner didn't look great for the entirety of the game, but in that fourth quarter, boom. There was a possession where he had the ball top of the key, and it probably was Wendell, who we'll give credit to in a minute here. Wendell Carter setting him a screen on his right-hand side. He rejects the screen, and there's 2 Detroit Pistons players in help from the left wing and the left corner. Not a single one of them rotated over, and Franz Wagner got an easy layup. That felt like the thing that was happening a good amount of the time in the fourth quarter. Jalen Suggs set the tempo from the very beginning. So many great performances all around. And just like Detroit Pistons, they didn't shoot the ball well either. And the fact that Detroit won the free throw battle by as much as they did, which is, they hit 15 more free throws and they still lost this game by double digits, is not a good sign. But anything can really happen. I still believe the Pistons are the team to win this series, but who knows? On Detroit, this is happening exactly the way a lot of us anticipated it to happen. Now, we didn't anticipate it to happen in the first game in the postseason, right? They've earned that benefit of the doubt to at least be out of the first round. But because they never went out to acquire a secondary creator, or they weren't able to acquire just anybody outside of Cade that can create his own shot, stuff like this is going to happen. J.B. Bickerstaff and his staff decided that down the stretch, second half of the game, fourth quarters, that instead of playing a top 3 DPOY candidate in Asar Thompson, shout out to Asar, they just announced that he was top 3 behind, maybe not behind, but alongside Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. Instead of playing one of the most impactful defensive players in the league down the stretch, he opted to go with Dennis Jenkins. And I've said it, that is, it's a really good story, right? It's a good story that Dennis Jenkins played 23 minutes total last season. Now he's one of the premier 6 men in basketball based on this season. But down the stretch, they had to go to him because he's the only guy outside of Cade Cunningham that can create for himself, right? And though he did not have a good game by any means, I don't agree specifically with JB's decision. I understand it at the bare minimum. I understand it because it was rough, man. If the Detroit Pistons aren't going to create turnovers, and in this game they created 12, which is actually more than it felt like on paper or with the eye test, if they're not going to create opportunities through the half court, through the full court, then they are just going to struggle in the half court, specifically against a team in the Orlando Magic that just scrambled defensively and made it tough. A two-man game of Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren is not as impactful in that first game because the Orlando Magic were prepared for it, right? Jalen Duren is dangerously close, in my opinion, to being an All-NBA player this season. He was on my personal ballot. In this game, if you had never watched either of these teams play together, you would guess that Wendell Carter was an All-NBA big fella and not Jalen Duren. Some scary stuff. Now, part of that is because, again, he's not a self-created himself. And if Cade can't get the two-man game or Dennis Jenkins can't get the two-man game, then that don't put Jalen Duren in a position to really have a great game anyway, offensively. But the defensive side of the ball is what scared me the most about Jalen Duren's performance today because it felt like last year. It felt like last year. Last year in the postseason, I remember walking out of that one saying, Cade Cunningham was fine, just not good enough, but damn, it's his first playoff series. We'll give him a pass. Jalen Duren was just not very good. And you question if he really is the center of the future. This is last year. Obviously, this season, he has a most improved player candidacy. He's an all-star and all-NBA player. So you hope that he wouldn't be able to revert to the guy who looked lost defensively in a playoff series, but he did. And the Magic are not this stalwart of I don't know if I'm using that word right, of a great offensive team, and he still struggled in this one. So that's not good. You win the three-point battle somehow. And you win the free throw battle as much as you did, you still lose this one. They should have probably went out to get Cade some help. Am I overreacting to the first game? Probably, but that's what this is supposed to be about. We're supposed to react to the footage we just saw. And the Orlando Magic looked like the team that was prepared, and the Detroit Pistons came out flat. And a lot of times, coming out flat could be the main thing to cause you to lose a game like this one, especially if you're not a team that has the offensive punch to do something crazy. I said in my recap video that, again, you don't accidentally win 60 games. You have to be talented enough. You have to win those games for sure. But this team is not like a 60-win Warriors team of past. It's not a 60-win OKC team of past where on some series, just straight up in some series, we can out-talent you. This team cannot out-talent many playoff teams. So if they're going to go on a deep run, they have to play every single minute and take every single possession as if it matters, because it does for y'all. And I don't think they did that tonight, right? So huge win for the Orlando Magic, the most interesting outcome of it all, because now you got, it's one game out of 7, but it has the Detroit Pistons at least a little bit on their heels after one game.